What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It is Rustbeard, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I don't normally do reaction videos to other YouTube channels or other videos. I'm trying to stay away from reaction content just because it's not really my thing. I like doing reactions to like songs and stuff or albums or whatever, but a lot of my stuff in that realm I like to save for the podcast episodes and whatnot, which you should definitely check out. From the Crypt, there's a link to both of these, by the way, in the description, and On Thin Ice, where me and two different buddies of mine, we talk about some stuff, and it's pretty cool stuff. But anyway, I try to keep the reactions away from that, but this one in particular I wanted to talk about just because one, I love Taliesin and Nevatel. They're great, and I love their videos. I watch most of their videos, if not all of them. I seen the caption for this video and I was like, yeah, I want to look at that a little bit more in detail with Taliesin, because I honestly am just interested into what he has to say, but also him and I tend to have a couple of differing opinions on a lot of stuff, which is cool. I mean, everybody has different opinions on everything, so that's not an issue whatsoever. But yeah, it's good to have altering opinions. It's good to have banter and so forth, and this, I guess, isn't really banter, but we're going to be reacting to this video today, talking about the new Voices Within book. It's a collection of short stories, it seems, based on just the thumbnail and whatnot that I've gathered, and a couple of things I looked up on the subject itself. I hope you all enjoy, and let's go ahead and get into it.
The Voices Within, a new collection of short stories announced. Have Blizzard announced this? Is it on Blizz Planet? Let's have a look. No image available. World of Warcraft, The Voices Within. Enhance your experience of The War Within, the first expansion in World of Warcraft's World Soul Saga, with this immersive short story anthology featuring an all-star cast of best-selling, award-winning authors. How very interesting. This sounds like right up my street. I love it. I think short story collections are one of the best things you can do with kind of fantasy franchises and like world building and stuff like that. You know? So
not to pause right off the bat, but I agree with this. Short stories are just easier to digest, and I would rather have 1,000 short stories than like 5 massive books, and I think that's just because maybe it's my attention span, I don't know. Maybe I just don't like reading as much as some people do, but I would much rather have short stories, just because, especially with how busy I am, it's nice to just be able to like pick up a short story, read it, or something with short stories. One of my favorite books or collection of short stories of all time is Cthulhu Lives. I think it's phenomenal. It's such a cool little like collection of just short stories that are within the Lovecraftian horror mythos, and I eat that shit up so much. I love it. So the fact that World of Warcraft, one of my other favorite things ever, is going to also be getting some short stories is pretty exciting, I'm not gonna lie. Let's go ahead and continue.
Much more so than like fully fledged novels, I always find. With fully fledged novels, you're stuck in this bind, aren't you, with full-fledged novels, where it has to be an exciting, meaningful story with the characters that you've chosen, which is why we so often get that situation where there's story that ends up in these books which probably should be in the game, really, and people feel bad isn't in the game, and stuff like that. Short stories are a perfect way around that, because you can just focus on little character moments and things. And like a lot of my favorite kind of third party, but like external WoW literature over the years has been little short stories. From deep beneath the surface of Azeroth, a mysterious voice cries out for heroes. Oh, this is great! So the idea that Azeroth is calling out to different people, and you can just like look at different characters and how they are affected by the voice of Azeroth and how it appears to them and stuff. This is a great idea.
No, I didn't.
This is a really great idea. I love like short stories on a theme around an event that's happening, and just seeing people's different kind of reactions to the event. It's like Mego's books that she puts out, which are like collections of, you know, it's like what happened in the time skip, right? This is what our characters did in the time skip, and I love that stuff. I think that's so cool. And this is very much on that theme, which I really like the idea of. or it seems to be anyway, sorry, maybe I'm wrong. But before these brave souls heed the call, they must answer their own voices within.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, maybe not quite so much what I was saying. Anduin's wanderings at last lead him to the solitude he
I get what he
seeks
was saying, though.
until
That would
his
be
peace is
that
shattered
also would be
in
really
a
cool to
heart-rending
see.
tale by Christy Golden. Christy Golden,
So much to
with
do,
the
so much to
Anduin.
see. Together.
with the Anduin stuff
Yeah.
for a change. Yeah, you can imagine when they were doing dibs on that. She's like crawling over people, like, give me the Anduin! Andrew Robinson takes Gazlowe to a struggling goblin city where he
Gazlowe?
aims to inspire its citizens,
Oh, that's
to
fun.
more worthy ambitions. Thrall grapples with his son's coming of age.
So, I really like the goblin story stuff in general. I think the goblin stuff is super fun, especially if you look deeper into it and the individual cartels and whatnot. So it's cool to see that they're actually going to be putting some focus on Gazlowe again. I think the last time he got like some really major like stuff pushed into the game was Battle for Azeroth. And then before that was probably Warlords of Draenor. I'm pretty sure he was pivotal in us creating our garrisons. So there's that, at least for the Horde. So that'll be cool to see. I would like to know more about Gazlowe as a whole. And a struggling goblin city, too. Where could that be? Is it a city we know of already? Is it going to be on, like, a ruined Kazan? Because I'm pretty sure Kazan, or Kazan, however you pronounce it, was completely destroyed, wasn't it, from Deathwing? So I don't think we could be going back to Kazan, but interesting. Where could that be? Maybe it's like a section of Orgrimmar or something, who knows, or maybe somewhere out in the Barrens, I don't know, but that'll be cool. Oh, Ratchet, maybe Ratchet. Could we be going back to Ratchet for a little bit for something? I don't know. That's interesting. This could also be leading to world revamp stuff. Keep that in mind. Any of these that we see, which I know we only got the first two so far, and the one with Anduin, I know he's in Silithus looking at the sword, probably in this regard, but Gazlowe going to a struggling goblin city, could we get a new goblin capital? Oh man, that would be interesting as hell. I would like to see that. However, I know that some of this stuff that's in these novels are not particularly fit to go straight into the game, of course, but we also got to keep in mind that there are books like War Crimes that like are solely on the books. There's none of it in the game, so we got to keep that in mind. But we also got to consider that the stuff that's in books is canonical with what we have in game, so any of this could fly. This could all be hinting at something that we're getting in the form of, like I said, a new goblin city. That would be cool. I would love to see that, where we go back and try to help this struggling goblin city to build it back up, especially if it's on one of the main continents of Azeroth. That would be awesome. What was the one out in Ashara, I think? Isn't that in Ashara where they have the big horde symbol in the land or whatever? It could be something there too. I don't know, but that'd be fun.
In a heartfelt story by
Thrall,
Jonathan
too, okay.
Mabry, about what it means to love and let go. Oh, that sounds good.
Thrall
I like
and his
that
son
one.
would be another
Delilah
really cool
Dawson
story
gives
to
voice
approach.
to Alleria Windrunner to connect with her son in a tense, bittersweet journey. Yes, we're getting some Alleria and what's he called? Fuck, what's their son called?
Or something, right? What does the
Don't
chat
tell
say?
me.
Alator or Arator,
Andor?
yeah.
No, what's he called?
Arator.
Arator. Thank you, not Andor.
I don't know a whole lot about Flaria,
The
to be
real
honest. I never really followed a
child
lot of
of
her
light
story.
and shadow. Absolutely.
I really don't play a whole lot of
Arator
Alliance, though, so
stuff.
there's that.
Love it. These
I
tales,
don't think
besides
I have
more
any
from
Void
Catherine
Elves
M.
currently.
Valente and Courtney Alameda, portray the poignant, introspective moments set to precede World of Warcraft's highly anticipated The War Within expansion.
Interesting.
As these larger-than-life heroes grapple with their next steps, a greater threat looms, one that will lead them to raise arms to fight for the fate of Azeroth. Despite the chasm of varied backgrounds, allegiances, and choices that divide them, these tales prove that even in the darkest time, home unites us all. I think I'm like so pleased to hear that this is the approach that they're taking.
For real.
I think there is
I
like
agree.
a pre-expansion novel as well. Is there a pre-expansion novel too, or is this the pre-expansion novel, do you think?
I
really hope
so.
this is it.
I
This
hope
is like
this
a
is the
great
expansion
idea.
novel.
This is what all WoW books
Yeah.
should be, honestly.
Absolutely.
I love the idea of just a bunch of short stories. From a personal point of view, there's the fourth crop.
I think that setting them out in short stories like this for pre-expansion books is a much better idea for the community as a whole, because I know a lot more people that aren't really into reading all that much that would probably read short stories or a collection of short stories, at least some of them that they're interested in, before they read a whole novel like War Crimes or Before the Storm or whatever. Even if those are good books and people like them and they were good, it's going to be a lot easier to convince people to read a couple of short stories, especially if, like, you know, if you're one of those people that like read an hour before bed or whatever, which I would like to start doing again. This is perfect for that. Just lay in bed, chilling, get off your phone for a little bit, and just read a couple of short stories, go to bed, do it again the next night, and so forth. I think that would be a great idea.
Chronicle book as well. Of course.
Oh, Chronicle
and
4,
you can
yeah,
say
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, well, that's not a pre-expansion novel, but the first Chronicle book was very much a pre-expansion novel.
for
to,
sure.
Legion.
Absolutely.
Very much
It clarified
so.
a lot of
You
stuff
know,
with Legion,
people
and
kind
the
of-
Void being like,
talking about Steve
the
Denu's old
Legion's,
set this week, I obviously,
you know,
was digging up some old
enemy and
stuff
so
going
forth.
through some old things and what have you. And, part of one of the reasons everyone hates Steve Denusa so much is the idea that he destroyed the integrity of the Chronicles series. The idea that it was billed as a definitive collection of WoW lore
Yeah, I know.
and stuff,
I
which
like it
many
better
people took
the way
to
that it
mean
is,
would
just in
never
the perspective
change or
of
be
the Titans.
expanded upon. Which is fair, honestly. If that's what you took from it, that's fair. Personally, the fact that it's better to change and expand on stuff
agreed.
is always going to outweigh, in my mind, the whole "you said it would never change." Like, I'm fine with it changing. I'm down with that. But it was that, very much so. But the first Chronicle definitely also worked as a Legion
Yeah.
kind of tie-in as well. Like, it properly kind of set the scene specifically and clarified a lot of the lore
Yeah.
going
with the
into
Void
Legion,
and stuff.
and changed a lot of the lore going into Legion as well. It was the first Chronicle book that very much repositioned the Void as the big baddies over the Legion.
Yep.
And yeah, really interesting. And kind of and let us know that the Titans were still alive and all sorts.
Be interesting to see
Again,
what they
say it
would
was
do for
advertised
Chronicle
Chronicles
4 too,
as
though.
absolutely objective canon. Well, the only person now correct me if I'm wrong, and I could be. The only person I've ever heard say that is like one line in a kind of
Chris
a
Metzen
little
said something about it.
sizzle reel for it that Chris Metzen says,
Yeah.
where he calls it definitive. And calling
I
it
don't remember the exact
definitive
quote he
isn't
used,
like
but I
doesn't
remember seeing
mean
that as well.
will never be expanded upon or changed, right? Like I could write the definitive dictionary right now. I couldn't, but if I could, I could. I could write the definitive dictionary right now, but it's only definitive up to the moment that it's made.
Right.
Like 1 minute after it's made, someone might invent a different word, but that doesn't mean that the dictionary that I made wasn't definitive when I made it. It just means that stuff has
that's
moved
fair.
on since. And
Always
that's
make new
how I
words,
take
you know?
definitive to mean in the context of Chronicle. Not like this will never be expanded upon. Personally, I don't know, but I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm sympathetic to the
What I'm assuming he's about to say is that, look, like, it definitely portrayed itself to be something that is, this is the definition of what is going on. And I understand that frame of reference. That's what I thought initially as well. That's what everybody thought, I'm pretty sure. But, dude, like, knowing it as the perspective of the Titans writing it instead just feels like it is a part of the world. It feels like it's a part of Azeroth. It feels like it is something that any of our characters could easily have picked up in a Titan facility. It's something that feels like it belongs within the confines of the canon, not just what we as players know it as, And I think that is much better. Now, don't get me wrong, and it's just because I'm a super nerd when it comes to world building, but it would be cool to have an official Blizzard plated lore book that is specifically for canon. It is like, this is the edict of World of Warcraft and how everything works, why it works, what happens from here and here and here. But the only problem with that is there's a lot of mysteries within the cosmos that we don't know. There's a lot of stuff that the devs will not tell us on purpose because it is for future stories. So we'll never get something along those lines, and that's fine. That's fine. There's plenty of lore videos. Novel puts out tons of really good lore videos. I watch his videos all the time, and YouTube is just a really good place to just continuously update the lore as we get it. And I don't think Chronicle will ever be that for us, and that's fine. I like I said, I prefer it much more to be from this perspective of who wrote it and so forth. But anyway,
to the complaint that, you know, it was sold as one thing, and it just seems like a silly thing to complain about to me, because the alternative, just changing it and expanding on it, is so much better than not doing that.
Yeah,
you know, just for the sake of being able to say, oh yeah, Chronicle was the definitive thing. I don't know. I think on one hand you get to say, yeah, Chronicle was this kind of omnipotent kind of telling of the history, and the other hand you've got, yeah, or we can change and expand stuff, and I actually think it's better to do that personally.
Yeah,
you know. Yeah, like a full discography or greatest hits or something. Yeah, when a band is still going, totally. I kind of hate that the retcon's something right in Legion, but you can see how bad it was by me not ever remembering what exactly it was. Yeah, but this sounds great. I'm not often excited by the idea of a new WoW novel or something. I don't know why. I always enjoy them to a certain degree, and some kind of literature that comes out connected to WoW I enjoy more than others. But this, genuinely, I'm probably more keen to read this than I am a WoW novel in a long, long time. This sounds really great.
Sure.
I really like the sound of this, and you're right, Meg.
The last one I read was Before the Storm. Kind of I think that is the most recent one, other than the one they released with Dragonflight.
Maybe they're being kept secret on purpose. Maybe they're just not done yet, and they might change. But yeah, maybe one will be about Xalatath or something. That'd be really, really cool. I've got a feeling they're probably going to be based more on Azeroth-based characters that we know. That seems to be the theme here. What I'd love to see, just from a personal point of view, is it sounds like each is having their own little adventure here, where they must tend to the inner voices of themselves and you know, discover something about themselves, learn something about themselves. But after that, I'd like to see each of these short stories ending or concluding with them hearing the voice of Azeroth for the first time.
Okay, that'd be kind of cool.
And kind of their reaction to them. Yeah, I want to see it link in. I want that to be like the unifying kind of thing about these short stories, is I want each of them to end with them hearing the voice for the first time, because I want to see how each of them react. Because you're not going to get all of that in the game. You know you're not going to get a fucking detailed character study of Gazlowe and how he reacts to hearing the voice in the game, right? So it'd be nice to just get it.
I bet you, because these are going to be short stories that the writers are wanting you to read before the beginning of the War Within, I bet you the ones that are in this story we will see in game, actually, even Gazlowe. I bet you that they're going to put it in there for a reason, and we'll at least see a little bit of it. I think Gazlowe will probably be... Whoever would have thought that they were going to just do a story about Gazlowe, even if it is a short story? Nobody. So I think that is a pretty good indicator that we will get something from each of these characters in-game. What it is, I don't know. But I think it's a good possibility that we get something from each of these.
The hint of that in this book. This would be the place to get it, right?
We'll probably get more from the stories, yes,
WoW novel,
than we do in the
honestly,
game, but we will probably get at least a little bit of each of these.
No joke, are ones that everyone's going to hate. But I genuinely think Before the Storm is a really, really good novel.
Okay. I like Before the Storm a lot.
I
think Before the Storm was really good. Personally, I'm a big Horde stan, as you guys have probably seen me wearing my Horde shirts. That's a Silver Scream Con shirt, but I got several Horde shirts. I've got a Horde tattoo. I'm a Horde stan for sure. But Rise of the Horde was probably my favorite. I loved the atmosphere of it. I loved learning about the orcs and the orc clans and stuff within within the confines of that story and all that. But War Crimes I thought was really good. Fight me if you want. I know it was really controversial because a lot of that stuff should have definitely been in game because it was connecting to expansions. So I know it gets a lot of flack for that, but as someone who played both and read the story, I'm a little biased, so it is what it is. I played Warlords of Draenor and I played Pandaria and I read War Crimes, so I don't know. I think War Crimes is really good, but let's see what else. What other books do you like, Tally?
Above other WoW novels, and there's the question that you've got to ask is like, why are you reading a WoW novel? Are you reading it to learn more about the lore?
That's fair.
Or in which case, Before the Storm probably isn't the best one,
right?
Or are you reading it because you want to read like an actually good novel? In which case, I think Before the Storm probably is the best one, in my opinion. I think Before the Storm is the best written
War
WoW
Crimes
novel,
and Rise of the Horde,
and the best structured WoW novel. And that's only my opinion, right?
Before the Storm is really good.
Only my opinion. But in terms of the importance of the lore that it portrays, I actually genuinely think Sylvanas is a really good novel as well.
I never read Sylvanas.
I think all the family stuff in Sylvanas with her is really, really good. I like the ones that kind of focus on one character. I really like Arthas as well. You know, and then you've got those more kind of meander.
I have Arthas and I have War of the Ancients and a couple other ones on my list. But I haven't gotten around to getting them yet. But those are definitely on my list. But Arthas is at the top, and Illidan. Illidan's another one at the top. I don't know why I haven't read those yet. They're some of the ones that are like some of the most iconic characters in the whole game. So I don't know. Well, I don't know what my problem is, but it is what it is. I'll read them eventually.
Meandering ones, like the early aspects, like you know the War of the Ancients novels and stuff like that. And I'm really not a fan of those. If I'm completely honest. I find those a bit of a fucking
I started that one, but I never finished it.
I don't really love War Crimes, if I'm honest, either.
Tally. Come on, man. War Crimes is good.
I like Shadows Rising. It's just big dumb fun, and it's meant to be. That's the thing. If it was big dumb fun by mistake, I'd be like, that's just a bit dumb, isn't it? But it clearly does exactly what it sets out to do, and I think, yeah, I really like Shadows Rising, and I really like the stuff with Flynn and Shaw in it. Tides of War, I enjoy. Yeah,
Shadows Rising was good. I did read that.
I feel like if anything, the older novels are kind of, in many ways, some of them are actually better to read now than they were at the time. Now that they're part of like a canon and a body of work in a way that they weren't before, and you know they are like the lore from as it was presented kind of 20 years ago, right? They're actually more interesting and better reads now than they were at the time, in my opinion.
Remember,
glad to hear Tally is not a fan of War Crimes. Those are generally bad things. Well, when I say, you know, obviously, unless my side is doing it, in which case it was definitely the right thing to do. Let's be very clear. If the side I like is doing War Crimes, then it's fine. Let's be real. And they're not even War Crimes anyway, so I don't know why you brought it up.
Chill.
Scaleborn also made me appreciate the in-game Dragonflight story more. Well, I mean, it's that difficult line,
I don't have time to read all these, man.
Of... Do you want it to, you know, enhance your experience of the game? Because that would be nice, wouldn't it? If you're reading a novel and it enhances your experience of the game and the game story, you're like, yeah, that's great. But then everyone who doesn't want to read the novel is like, well, I shouldn't have to do that. I shouldn't have to read the novel to enhance my experience of the game. Everything should be in the game. It's like, you know, I've talked about this before, man. I'm of a generation where everything that I consumed as a kid when it came to fantasy and stuff like that, it was always done through kind of like what we call now transmedia, right? The whole, you know, if you wanted to get involved with the Star Wars universe, there was Star Wars, the 3 movies, and then you had like the Ewok movies, and then you had the Droids cartoon series, and that was literally it. So you had to get into cartoons, you had to get into comics, you had to get into, you know, novels and stuff like that, and that's just how
I like
you
Star Wars,
consumed
but I don't like Star Wars
that
that much.
franchise, right? Was
Not to
that's how you
read all the
consumed
books
every
and
kind
get
of
on all the
fantasy
shows and
franchise.
stuff.
Same with Warhammer and 40k and stuff like that.
I'll stick with the
And,
movies.
you know, we didn't have internet, we didn't have like MMOs with, you know, constantly evolving stories like soap operas that just never finished, and one game went on for 20 years. You just didn't do it. So I'm of a generation that is very, very used and expects to, if I'm into a franchise, I want to explore like a fantasy world more, I expect to go out and read novels. You know?
All right. I don't know about all of that, especially with the backlash that War Crimes got, to be honest with you. I don't think that you should be required to read the novels outside of the game. Dude, I know people that hate reading. I know people that hate reading but love playing video games, and I used to be one of those people. I used to hate reading, and I'm still not a giant fan of reading all the time, but I do like reading every once in a while, and it's nice to just chill out with and all that kind of stuff. But you shouldn't have to read the novels to understand what's going on in the game, the MMO that's like story-driven game, you know? However, that's where we come back to these voices within, the voices within. Their short stories are easy to digest, so even people that don't like reading can read a short story and be content, you know what I mean? And then maybe they play the game a little bit and they're like, man, I want to know more about Gaslow, so I'm going to go read his short story now, or whatever. That's easier to put into perspective than a whole novel. Guys, like, I do not agree that it should be required of you. It should be enhancing your experience, not mandatory. But I don't know. I'll die on that hill. Again, it's all opinionated. Tally's got his opinion. Everybody's got their opinion. Evitel might have a different opinion. Who knows? But I think that it's just, if I'm going to go out of my way to read the story, I would much rather read the story with the overall knowledge in mind. I want to read a story to hone in something on a specific character, hone in on something that doesn't need to be explored in the game. You know, something that's just filler, something that's extra, just because I'm a lore nerd. I mean, I like to learn about backstories and all that kind of stuff. I play D&D, guys. You know, I like backstory kind of shit, but I don't know. I don't think it should be mandatory. I'll die on that hill. I said what I said.
And consume transmedia and short stories and comics and things like that. And as a result, I think I enjoy it a lot more than a lot of younger people who play the game.
Speaking of TV shows as well, if we do end up getting a World of Warcraft TV show, I really hope they do not do that. I hope they don't make it so you have to watch the show in order to understand the game. And I know that's easier said than done, especially with such a big world like World of Warcraft, but if they keep it on specific stories, like specific stories and backgrounds and stuff that is already canon, doesn't have to be changed, doesn't need to be changed, probably won't be changed, like the Arthas storyline, for example, that's pretty much wrapped up now thanks to Shadowlands, which we can just disregard all of that. They should do an Arthas show, right? Or a Thrall show, or whatever. Stuff that we have lore bits already in there, just so we can visualize them in a different way, you know? Maybe answer some unanswered questions, sure, or some stuff that maybe didn't get answered in the game and whatnot, but not stuff that is pivotal to understand what the game is trying to do. And that's all I'll say there. But
where they see it more as homework, right? And I'm different strokes for different folks, and I think there are definitely
homework's a
examples
good way
where
to put it.
you can put too much important information in a book. The obvious example is War Crimes.
Already talked about that.
And that's why I like the idea of a short story collection so much is there doesn't have to be any important information or plot in this book. You know, it's just personal little stories, which is what
exactly.
I want. I want the big plot to happen in the game, and I want novels and you know, like accompanying media to be little stories, you know, of the characters, stuff that you never usually get to see, like Lorthamar, you know, going to a wedding and shit like that. I love that shit.
True.
I want a Zappy Boy novel. It exists, my friend. It's called Shadows Rising. Zappy Boy is a main fucking event in that novel.
I want a Zappy Boy show. I want a whole season dedicated to Zappy Boy.
I think the best is a media that utilizes the universe and brings life to things that are referenced but not a main beat. Yeah, absolutely, totally. Or a Banner Bay novel. Well, that was basically like, you'd buy like a Star Wars short story collection back in the day, and it would be literally the story of like a Jawa who was on like the big Jawa kind of like desert kind of walker thing in the first Star Wars movie, and he goes out to get some toothpaste or whatever, and he comes back and like the whole Jawa walker has been blown up by the Empire, like happens in the movie, and so he's like the only Jawa left, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get my revenge on them."
I didn't realize
so he
Star
goes
Wars
out and
had,
buys a big gun,
short
and he goes
stories.
into Mos Eisley, and he's gonna commit a terrorist act, and he's just gonna kill some fucking Empire, and he's like, "This is it, this is the moment." And it's just like a character thing about this fucking Jawa. This is a real short story I read. Like, this is the kind of thing it was. And then like he'd be like, I can hear a kerfuffle, and the story would have, you know, some characters who are clearly Obi-Wan and Luke and C-3PO and R2-D2 like running from the Empire, another bit that you'd recognize from the movie, and they're being chased by stormtroopers, and those are the stormtroopers that the Jawa decides to kill. And he's like, "Ooh," and like, so you get, it kind of loops into him helping the main characters of the movie kind of get to their ship, to the Millennium Falcon or whatever. And like, that's the kind of thing, that's what all of those stories used to be. They'd take like a tiny moment from one of the 3 movies that you had to work with, and then they'd build something, you know, kind of usually involving that moment, or leading up to that moment or something. Yeah.
Or a collection of short stories.
And I love that shit. I love that stuff. And that is and this book here, Voices Within, sounds like the closest WoW has ever got to that kind of story collection, honestly. This, I'm not hyping this up for no reason. Like, this sounds like more up my street than the usual kind of WoW novel fare. This sounds awesome. I'm like genuinely excited about this. I guess that makes me a shill, right?
Yes, that makes you a shill. Just kidding. Just kidding. I love World of Warcraft, and I want to know more about the lore. I want to know more about the stuff that's in it. I think that it would be very cool to see this come to life in a way that it encourages them to do short story collections like this in the future. I want to see more of it. I'm hoping that we do get that animated Netflix show or whatever. I would like a show of some kind, just because the world of Azeroth is just too big to hold in one movie, I think, and I would watch the shit out of it. Anyway, that'll about do it. Thank you all for watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you guys think that these are going to be something that we get more of in the future? Would you like more of these in the future? Also, do you think these might be incorporated into some kind of 2.5D animations like we usually get with like the Warbringers or the Jaina sea shanty video and stuff that we got at the beginning of Battle for Azeroth? What do you think about that? I think that might be pretty cool. Also, what do you think the 2 mystery stories that they hinted at in this post are going to be about? Do you think they'll be more about Xal'atath, or maybe something closer to Azeroth, not something out in the cosmos like Xal'atath, a void being and so forth? I would like to know what you guys have to say. As always, make sure you give me a giant thumbs up if you like this video, and hit the subscribe button for more content like this. It is completely free for you, but it means the world to me. Helps me get pushed into the algorithm, and yeah, with that out of the way, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.